Hey there everyone, welcome back to Jeff Week. I am Jeff, your tabletop technician here at the Dice Tower, continuing my top 100 series of games. Back here in Ashland, Virginia at the Treehouse. Hopefully you got to see the Torty Cabin in the last series. And I'm going to kick off the list starting with number 80. Let's get to it. Number 80 on this list is a Roman-themed city-building game, and you all know what this is, of course, except for that you don't, because this is Magna Roma by Arcona Games and designer Matteo De Nardi. This is the only Roman-themed city-building game on this list. Apologies to all the Foundations of Rome fans, but this is a far better game. It lacks the table presence of Foundations of Rome, but in this game you are trying to build a tableau of tiles representing your own city in the Kingdom of Rome, and you're trying to expand the influence of Rome across Europe, trying to make sure that you've continued to appease the gods, trying to make sure that your citizens have access to luxury goods and such, trying to build various wonders, staff them up with enough citizens. There is so much that you're trying to do in this game. It can be quite the mind-bending puzzle. I did a review of this game out here on the channel, had a lot of fun putting that video together, and also have always enjoyed playing this game. There is a new game coming out in this kind of universe, if you will, and I'm really excited to check that game out as well. My number 80, Magna Roma. Number 79, I will be honest, is probably a good bit higher on this list than it should be, but it is purely nostalgia keeping Transformers, the deck building game, on this list. This is from Renegade Games, and it is a deck builder where you're moving these Transformer standees across this sort of grid tableau, if you will, of cards representing the Matrix in Transformers, and each of those cards will be either other characters, other Transformers, maybe enemy Transformers, other characters again in the whole sort of Transformers universe. You may have sites, you may have equipment, just all kinds of different stuff that you're finding and then trying to accumulate into your deck, or trying to fight and accumulate various enemies that are worth points to you at the end of the game. It is a really wonky game, and there are something like 3 standalone base games of this and 3 expansions. They also just announced another one, which I will probably get, even though I will, hate myself for doing so. But I really do enjoy this game. Now, I think it is much better as a 2-player head-to-head game, which does require one of the other standalone versions, or at least knowing the rules to it. I do believe you can play that head-to-head with just this game, but I'm not entirely sure. And the expansions add some really neat stuff, but it is so difficult to set up your game with the expansions because you don't just add everything from those boxes into this box. You have to add in cards and take other cards out of the same type at the same cost. It gets really muddy very quickly, but I still enjoy it. I just do, and I feel a little bad for saying so, but it is my number 79, the Transformers deck building game. Number 78 is my first CCG. This is Lorcana. And listen, unless you've been living under a rock for a little while, you've at least heard of this game. This is a CCG deck construction type game, collector's game, of course, knee deep in the Disney universe. This is by Ravensburger. And listen, I have an 11-year-old daughter, right? So it just kind of made sense for us to check out this game, and she has had a lot of fun with it for sure. This is the Ursula's Return, the 4th chapter. They've already announced the 5th chapter, and this game is doing very well, right? They've certainly made a decent amount of money off of me. We have a lot of cards of this game, but we've had a lot of fun with it. It is a little weird for sure when you've got Olaf trying to beat up on the genie or something like that, but we do like the questing aspect. It's a lot of fun to play the song cards, the action cards, to see a lot of the characters and even the events from just the entire lineage of Disney movies. And so yeah, it just made sense for us to play this game, and I'm certainly glad that we have had a lot of fun with it. A little tip, if you will, I like to play to 25 or 30 points instead of the base 20. I think that lets you get through a bit more of your deck, experience a little bit more of the game itself, sort of build out a bigger tableau. The game does crescendo very quickly as you start to get a lot more out on the table, and so that's where we tend to have a lot more fun with it. We do also have the Illuminator's Quest, the Ursula's Challenge, that I think is called Deep Trouble, and we have Played that. I can't say we've had a ton of fun with it because it's really, really hard, especially at the higher player counts. You get a lot more cards that come out, and those cards just tend to whoop up on all the players. And so I think this game's actually a bit better, a bit easier perhaps at lower player counts with that Deep Trouble Illuminator's Quest standalone expansion. So certainly keep that in mind. My number 78, Lorcana. In a twist that I promise wasn't done on purpose, my number 77 is also a CCG, and it is the last one on this list, but this is Star Trek: The Collectible Card Game by Decipher. Now, this is long since out of print. It has been long since abandoned by Decipher, and this is a game that I've not played in many, many, many years. I used to play this all the time in high school with a best friend, and I still love to collect cards even today. I've always felt that this was very loyal to the theme of Star Trek, starting with The Next Generation, but they've also done a number of series with Voyager and Deep Space Nine and more. I have some of those cards, but never played them. In this game, you made this sort of universe of cards. You had various planets and systems that would come out. You would tuck challenges and such underneath them, dilemmas, I believe they were called. And then you could actually build ships with crew and equipment, all kinds of things, and move these ships across the universe trying to complete various missions to get points. And it was a race, I believe, to 100 points if I recall, though again, it's been a long time since I played. But we always had so much fun building up various ships with these iconic characters, iconic equipment, just everything that we knew from watching the show. I grew up with Star Trek. It's just always kind of been a part of my life. And so this game is here just purely on nostalgia. One of my favorite games, and I really, really wish I could play this again. Star Trek: The Collectible Card Game, my number 77. From Disney to a very old Star Trek CCG to something completely different, this is Boop, my number 76. This is a tactical game, kind of like checkers and chess, where players have a number of kittens they're trying to grow into cats, and then they eventually want to get 3 cats in a row to win the game, with the caveat being that cats and kittens boop each other out of the way, sort of scaring away a cat that they are next to when they get placed. And so it adds, obviously this very tactical nature of trying to put kittens down and this sort of, other cats jumping out of the way. And so you're trying to get this almost 3 in a row type of thing going to win the game. And that's it. That's the entire game, really. Now, there is another variant of this called Boop, which is a Halloween theme, which adds just these 2 ghost components. I have thought about trying to 3D print some puppies to sort of add that variant to this game. There is also supposed to be a Christmas variant of this game coming out, I believe, later on here in 2024, but I'm not sure. And that adds a 3D element of this tree that the cats are presumably climbing and causing all kinds of chaos with. But this was a logical choice for my family. As I mentioned, we love cats, and so it would make sense that we would have and love the game of Boop, my number 76. Number 75 is bringing us back to the tasty, delicious Euro market. This is Chocolate Factory by Alley Cat Games. Now, I bought this game a while ago because my wife has always had a love of baking and making chocolates, especially around the holiday season, and so I thought this would be a good fit for us. It is a surprisingly difficult game, however. Each player has a chocolate factory with a couple different pieces of equipment inside, and you're actually sliding these tiles through your factory. They start off just providing cocoa, and you are upgrading that cocoa into different pieces of candy, chocolates, whatever, using this equipment. And you're also drafting these workers that will give you various abilities throughout each round, but they also give you access to markets that you can sell your candies to in that same round. And so there is this very challenging timing aspect of getting the candies that you need processed through the factory at the time that you have the worker that will let you sell to the shop that wants those candies. And it's like I said, a rather challenging game, but something that has definitely kept us on our toes. A really unique theme, a very, very fun theme with a good puzzle attached to it. Number 75, Chocolate Factory. I'm a little anxious to bring number 74 onto this table because this is probably the heaviest game of this entire list. And I'm talking complexity and heft. So if you'll excuse my aging back, this is Hegemony, Lead Your Class to Victory. There is so much that I could say about this game, and I'm just not going to have enough time. The only word that I can really use to describe this is brilliant. This game is absolutely brilliant. It is an asymmetrical game where each player represents a social class in a civilization. And so you've got the working class, middle class, capitalist class, and the state or the government. And the way that those factions interact with each other, the way that some of them are working towards common goals, but opposed on others, and of course, all of which trying to be just the most successful of those four classes, makes this game just so unbelievably unique. I frankly can't imagine what it took to develop this thing. I have only played this once at 4 and once at 2, but each one of those games was just amazing to see all the different systems that go into play. And at the last play of this with 4 players, we all sat there several times during the game going, it just feels like real life. One player says, well, gosh, I can't buy enough food for my people because, well, the capitalist has made the prices too high and you're not paying my workers enough. And they look across the table and go, well, yeah, that's kind of my job. That's what I'm trying to do, is keep the most of my money. And it makes perfect sense, even while it is immensely frustrating for some players around the table. I can't say enough about this game. I think it is just genius. I love playing it. It's probably a little hard to come by this deluxe edition, but you can get this in retail fairly easily, and I would encourage folks to check this out. I think, if you're a fan of like Root, this just amps Root up to 15. It is so much more unique of an experience and a great game. Hegemony by number 74. Number 73 is also perhaps a bit polarizing of a game. This is from Stonemaier, and this is Tapestry. This is a somewhat abstract civilization building game where you're mostly trying to climb up a variety of tracks, exploration tracks, military tracks, science tracks, and more. And of course, just flat out going for points. What I really like about this game is that efficiency puzzle. You only have so many resources at the start of each round, and you're trying to get as much done with those resources as you possibly can. And while it doesn't always necessarily feel like a civilization game, I just really appreciate the puzzle that this game represents. And frankly, it doesn't look too bad on the table either. I think that this game, because it came out right after Wingspan, I think everyone was sort of expecting another explosion of popularity out of this game like Wingspan got, and obviously it didn't, but I still think there is a really neat experience in this game, in this box, and I have enjoyed all of my playthroughs with it. So that's why it's number 73 on the list, Tapestry by Stonemaier. Number 72 is also a very heavy game, this time mostly in weight, and the 2-pound insert I 3D printed myself doesn't help. This is Xia, Legends of a Drift System. This is an open world, do whatever you want to do kind of game set in space, actually the third space game on this list. And in this game, like I said, you're doing whatever you want to do. You can go and collect resources and sell them for upgraded prices. You can outfit your ship. You can go and fight other ships. You can just kind of go exploring and do whatever you want to do. Now, the only downside I will say to this is that just about every space you land on, everything that you want to do in this game has its own set of rules. And so it can be a very daunting game to learn, especially if you haven't ever played it before. But even if you haven't played it in a while and you're coming back to it, there's a lot to remember with this game. It's also a very frantic dice chucking game, a ton of randomness, again, with just about every single space that you land on. But we have had a lot of fun with this. The exploring aspect and just kind of going wherever you feel like going makes this game just a lot of fun, a unique experience. Certainly one that we've seen someone die on the very, very first turn of the game. And it is that silliness that can be appealing or frustrating to folks depending on how you are and how you take it. But a neat experience, a game that has been usurped by another one that will come up on this list a little bit, but a unique open world experience, Xia, my number 72. Number 71 is the next game in this entire series that I don't own. This is Weather Machine by Vital Lacerda, the first Lacerda game on this list. In Weather Machine, the idea is that a scientist has invented a machine that can control the weather, except that things always go awry every time the machine is used, and so players are trying to improve upon the design, do research, and build a new and improved weather machine. At least that is the theme on paper, because I feel like of all the Lacerda games that I have played, this one is the least thematic. You do not really feel immersed into that theme. However, one of the things that Lacerda is very well known for are his executive actions. So you kind of have a core thing that you're doing. In this case, it's kind of a worker placement game, although there are different places that you're going and there are very different mechanisms for each of the 3 or so areas on the main board. But the executive actions in this game open up a ton of extra opportunities. And what I really like about it is that you can set yourself up to essentially take 2 massive turns in a single turn of the game. And doing so makes you feel very, very clever. It makes it a very, very unique and, to me, a very enjoyable puzzle. And so even though I don't think it's very thematic, which is why I don't have it, I have certainly enjoyed my playthroughs of Weather Machine, my number 71. And that brings to a close this next chapter of this list. We've got 70 more games to go, and I'm looking forward to sharing them with you. See you soon. Cheers.
Hey everybody, thanks for watching this video. If you like this review or whatever you just watched, wasn't it amazing? Check out our channel, Dice Tower. We have all kinds of things. We review games, we do top 10s, we play games live. It's all about board games, but especially the people who play them. Check out Dice Tower YouTube channel.
Number 80, Foundations of Rome. No!